But when the money come, snakes come out, right? When the bank get unlocked, the serpents rear their head because they smell the money. And Big Mama sometimes act like a little girl because she still got an inner child. And that inner child is who the seducer is trying to woo. So the seducer seduced the inner child, which is her innocence, and use it to leverage against her, to subjugate her. And this is where this plantation narrative comes from. So now that we got all of the security away from them, now we got to put what we call a decoy in its place. So they go out and they hire these pale-faced plantation managers, and then they give them fornication rights because King George said it, or King James said it was cool. If any way you need to spread that drop, get that drop of blood, you get it. Right? So when they do this, we don't realize that Django was the Cherokee in the house, and Samuel L. Jackson was the Huguenot, or the gentry, or conquistador. He was one of them. Coming with his flashy suits when he first came, he was dressed like Django. But once he got rid of Big Mama, she ain't nowhere around. Where she at? Right? And now he got to try to, who that nigga on that man? That ain't no regular, who that nigga on that man? Right? So we sitting here watching the reenactments through Hollywood. They telling us what's going on without telling us what's going on. If we know history enough, we can see the story play out in theatrical portrayals in Hollywood, in political satire in DC. They all telling the story. DC just responsible for writing it down, and Hollywood is responsible for putting it on the big screen. Right? So it's in all their literature. They wrote about the conquest of the Americas. They didn't come over here friendly. These people don't belong here. Your judges, your lawyers, your prosecutors, your police, all of those are agents of the Crown of England. And their days is numbered.
Hey, Rod. Now this next one, gonna be getting at. Gonna be my question about how they played the teepees. Say we was living in teepees, but let me play these short. That this foreign government, Brit connected back to Britain, is in control of keeping whatever's in under the Smithsonian Institute secret. Why would that be? And why would the government be helping some foreign entity out when they supposed to be against in the Constitution against foreign government?
To us, the United States is foreign, operating on our land. But to the colonizer that came, and later the immigrants that followed, the United States is supposed to be the United States. Right. It's Turtle Island. Right? Now, when you realize that they foreign, when you talk about British banknotes, right? You're talking about the Crown of England.
Right.
We're talking the mortuary. It's a place you store dead people. Right? And this is where you get your mortgages from. Your mortgages are issued out of the mortuary, which is the crown of the one who performs autopsies. Right? Shout out to Gaddy Boy for dropping that. He was on point with that one. And I was like, whoa. But anyway, the civilly mortis status is the general status of anybody that comes into the war zone. You automatically declare dead in the war zone because you might not make it out. We lost a lot of good soldiers, right? But so we lost so many good soldiers, we kept raising soldiers and wasn't raising no generals, no lieutenants, no captains, no admirals. We wasn't raising none of that, nothing but just straight raw soldiers. And Elijah told us, force and power without direction is total destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it in our community because all our communities look like Warsaw after World War II, the ghetto.
Right.
Right? So all of this foreign interest, because the war had to be contained. Only reason they concerned about foreign interest is because if these natives don't know they not Moors, dirty Moors, I have to correct that.
Yeah,
if these natives don't know they not the dirty Moors, then they gonna be the ones lose out.
Yep, our state go back to us.
If you listen to Hakeem Bey, he's telling you his organic original status and his birthright as a chief on the land in his lectures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then he talk about the rituals he used to do up in Central Park that caused the catalyst of something to happen to him that woke him up to the fact that he was from over here. Noble Ali don't say he came over here from Spain or Portugal. He said he was born in one of the Carolinas.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Right? And then he got going a step further. He was a certified Cherokee chief that was recognized under the Cherokee Confederacy.
Right.
And he had a right to execute the Cherokee Constitution over the U.S. Constitution. Just like when it's a rightful Gullah Geechee, they got a right to assert the Commonwealth Constitution, which we call Articles of Confederation, that was the Confederation of I'm getting brain locked. Iroquois Confederacy.
Yeah. I was about to say it.
It was the Iroquois Confederacy in the rebel flag. It wasn't called the rebel flag. Right? And the Old Glory wasn't even created yet. Right? Old Glory is the war flag. Old Glory is not the peace flag. The stripes go up and down on the peace flag, horizontal. They go vertical on the war flag. Right? So then you have the Admiralty flag, which carries the tribunals of the law of the seas. And this is what they enforcing in the war zone. Right? But we sank their battleship when they was trying to sink ours.
And these people was already over here. They don't connect. But then he was saying this. I got a couple questions off of that part. Now my first part is, before 1492, several groups, we had contact with several groups that we know of, and it might have been more. But we know that Ho Shin came over about around the 300s on the West Coast. And we know that Mansa Musa, which they don't teach us in school about Mansa Musa, who sailed over in 1310s, him and Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr came first, and then Abu Bakr actually stayed over here, from what Doc said in the Lesson of the Record Scrape book. And then Mansa Musa came over here looking for him. And he actually mixed in with some people over here. But they cut it off. So he's saying that Smithsonian Institute wanted to cut this off, cut that information that predates any contact with foreign people or any Africans or anybody else. They wanted to start it from 1492, and it goes wrong with the church, the doctrine of discovery in the church. It pretty much ties into the doctrine of discovery and what he just said about it's connected back to the church. So my question to you is, why would they want us not to know about these prior encounters with foreign other people in America before them, before Christopher Columbus? Yeah.
Okay, the first thing is we got to pay attention to a particular word. The word was homogeneous.
Okay.
Which means that they just naturally developed. somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the general that they put over the Smithsonian's complaint is that they are trying to make it seem different than what it was. Remember I told you that there was the archaeological studies over here and are less than 200 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Now, in the video you just played, he gave you a 100-year stretch from 1790 something to 1890 something before they even started doing any archaeological and anthropological research over here.
Right.
At that time, they already had their out of Africa theory.
Yeah.
Now, when they take away anything before 1492, that erases all of the stuff they keep finding.
Right.
They can't incorporate that into the literature and the doctrines because the Adam and Eve story, the Popol Vuh, is older than the Adam and Eve story.
Yeah.
It was word for word passed down until some Catholic priest told the Mayan priest that he had to put it in writing because we're going to kill your ass. And ain't going to be nobody else to pass it down. So they wrote it down, and then it wasn't originally available to the general public. It was kept in the church archives.
Mm.
The church released it, I think, in sometime in the 1900s. Right? But they had it recorded for almost 100 years. Right? So when they take away the fact that, like I've been saying the whole time, we've been marrying Africans on the Eastern Shoreboard for thousands of years. The royal families from over there would marry in the royal families from over here. That's why we didn't have the same effect that the European royals had when they was doing incest.
Right.
Because we was incorporating each other's outside blood all the time. Recycling the diversity in the genome. This is why you got everybody's genome over here. It ain't just because of the colonization migrations. This has been going on a long time. Only people that used to come here didn't come hostile until Columbus came.
Right.
And so they cutting off everything before the hostilities begun to tell us that's the history.
Yeah.
So it takes us back to what was we doing in 1491 then.
Right. Same thing.
Right. I'm going to tell you what we was doing. We was juking. We was crip walking. We was bee walking. We was hoover stomping. That's what we was doing. We was rain dancing, controlling the weather.
Right.
We was farming the land. We was talking to the animals. We was talking to the birds. We would send the birds to deliver the messages to the people on the other side of the land. And we didn't have to even do nothing but whisper in the bird ear. And when the bird get there, the message is going to come out to the other shaman.
That's right.
The bird's electromagnetic sensor, based on the message you gave him, tell him where he need to deliver the message. You don't know where he's going. You don't have to. We was doing that before 1492. In 1491, even after 1492, we was still doing it.
Yeah.
Right? We was living as one with the buffalo. This is where you get your term buffalo soldier from. We was living as one. When we went through and called the herd, that's what they call it in English, calling the herd. The herd is getting too bad, consuming too many resources, and we need meat to eat anyway. Mm-hmm. So we would put on the pelts of the buffalo, the bison, and with our nappy hair, we walked right through them.
Right.
And the ones that we knew needed to be harvested, we would either harvest them on the spot or we would mark them with some kind of marking for harvesting later.
Yeah. I see that.
And so now they give us all of their history and they ignore what we was doing.
Yep. Yep. The Christian way. No, but they tell us that we was living in teepees when after from the 1492 Everything is, y'all was in teepees, y'all was savages running around in thongs and diapers when we got over here. Even though you read the Christopher Columbus diaries, he tell you what this guy just said. It was big, huge cities, all this, right? So he saying that what is world the state fairs or these huge fairs like in Chicago and like in Staten Island, the one up in New York, wherever. All these fairs were where our center points, power points of where our cities were, and that they tore them down, and that they tell us we live in. They came over here, we was in teepees. Could you go in on that, Rod?
So, first of all, they didn't even see a teepee until they got to the Great Plains. The cities is the same cities that we've been occupying from the beginning. They just changed the names. And sometimes they change them to biblical names to suit the narrative they was pushing. If they can convince us that it wasn't nothing over here but some Mongolian savages that they brought over here, we won't know what happened. We got to look at the migrations. The big migration that happened between 1492 and 1663, I think, that migration was going from north to south, from west to east, to fight the Gullah War. The first Gullah Wars, the first onslaught and arrival of the Spanish Armada, they came before the Huguenots. In the midst of that, the Huguenots came into what we call the Gulf of America today. And from the Gulf of America, they fought the war with the tribes at the Mississippi outlet. And they was fighting the fort back then. This is now called the Fort Nola, but it had a tribal name. The Mississippi River used to have patrol boats, river boats that traveled up and down the river for whatever reasons. Sometimes it was to transport goods, sometimes it was to transport people, sometimes it was to give assistance to one side of a tribal conflict and bring them some kind of means to defend themselves, right? So the Mississippi River was a great highway for us. And the tributaries was also interstates. We did more water travel across the land than we did land travel. So, of course, close to the rivers, you see when we docked the boat that we would set up a campsite. And this is what they call in teepees, or tents in modern terms. And we pitch our tents and they start attacking us on those locations. This is where they get this narrative that we lived in, that was in tents and teepees. That wasn't the truth. That was a half truth, what we call disinformation. You take a partially true piece of information, but you steer the narrative in the wrong direction. We was already on the move to defend the land, right? So once the war treaty is signed, which they call it the Declaration of, the Emancipation Proclamation, right? Once this is all done, we go into this 200-year slumber from not knowing what was going on the land. All of a sudden, all of the ones with the knowledge was murdered first. So now they got to explain why all of these people being murdered. They came up with something called a lynch mob, right? And the lynch mob was actually secret societies. This is why the KKK is a Masonic brotherhood. So when you understand what they're doing, you can see the war being fought, but it's being fought on multiple levels at the same time.
All right, Rod. Let me roll that next one because Oh, I got a question. I got to say something on that too. You said something about we was using the highways as the Mississippi and all that. I believe that America, this land, the Turtle Island, that we had the first Navy. That we had the first. That's why the Navy. I believe that, and that's a reason why the Navy over here is still the biggest Navy in the world, because we had the Republic had the Turtle Island with the Afar, the Tamarayan police, the Felicians and the Afar people, which were they both mixed in together. They
And
was
we know the far came from over here.
yeah, yeah, and they were the they were the police. Like you said they were like the Navy. So because they were Navy SEALs. They even go into say that these Magi's were trained like Navy SEAls. I mean they could go underwater and all that. The Navy.
That's why they was frog.
Go ahead.
That's why they was frogmen first. Right. That's why they was frogmen first. Because the frogmen was the name that was given to the water tribes that patrolled the waters. Right. You got to remember, not only did we patrol our waters, but Jamaica controlled the waters around Jamaica. It wasn't called Jamaica back then. Haiti, Dominica patrolled the waters around them. We used to send each other delegations. Cuba used to patrol the water around them. Right? And all of it's a certain distance. I think it's like 60 miles out to sea, which is the patrol area. Right? They say they write in the history books that we didn't see the ships. Like we didn't know what a boat was.
Right.
Right? That's not what they telling you. They test the disinformation. We didn't see no slave ships bringing us over here because we was already here.
Right.
We seen Columbus ship. We seen the Mayflower, the Santa, the Santa Independent, and whatever they is. We seen them. We just didn't see the slave ships.
Right. Right.
So that's the explanation. Is that in the oral history, the slave ship story don't exist. Mm-hmm. So they had to figure out a way to explain away why the slave ship story don't exist in the oral tradition of the people on the land.
Right.
It only exists in what they call academia of the occupying government.
Right.
They went from telling us we ain't allowed to read and write to forcing us to read and write in their language.
Yeah.
Right? Make it make sense. Either you gonna let us read and write or you ain't.
Right.
They had to get rid of the ones with the knowledge first.
That makes sense.
Because when you got a bunch of people that don't know nothing, you can tell them anything. You can tell them anything.
Right.
But if the ones that know, you can't just tell them anything. They gonna if they at the very minimum, they got some questions for you to answer. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you can't answer them questions, they're not going along to get along. Mm-hmm. Right? So they have to control the narrative like that, giving out this disinformation. Because if they don't, we know who we are. Right. And they plan won't work.
Right. They coming to a crumble. It's the end that they did right here. But and they even went so far as to grind some of our ancestors up. They found so it's another part to this too. They're gonna come up, but they wanted to hide those bodies because those bodies show that hey, these Nubians, this is how they mummified 9,000-10,000 years in these mounds. And then these people Nubians, and then they took even certain colors that they had that you can't even find these colors. They found certain colors in the tombs, and they grinded the colors up, and then put them into a jar and say, oh yeah, this is a rare color, right? But this is the question I want to ask you off of that. Now, do you think they was doing cannibalism? Because I read a book that somebody told me about. It's called The Science of Cannibalism, I think. I got it in my collection. I just scanned through it. I didn't really read the whole thing, but it was because it was so creepy and just disgusting. But it was talking about how they were digging up our ancestors over here in the mounds and all around the world and eating and grinding them up and eating them for some kind of energy or something. So do you think that the Smithsonian Institute, why are they collecting all of our ancestors' brains and bodies from these mounds? And is it a cover up? And because is it some kind of energy siphon or something? But why would you disturb our ancestors' tomb? Go ahead.
One word: Eucharist, communion. You remember what the communion was, Elder?
In church? You talking about in church?
It's a long held
cannibalism. They drink the blood and they eat the body.
Right. Okay, now.
Yeah.
People don't understand what cannibals believe about eating people. And you seen cannibalism a lot in ancient times on the battlefield. And you would hear stories about strong warriors being taken down in battle, and the one who took him down would eat his heart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
From the warrior perspective, that served two purposes. The warrior that took him down absorbs his spiritual essence that gave him his strength. Mm-hmm. And the downed warrior is honored by the warrior that stands over him victorious, being worthy to consume his heart. So they become one warrior now. Remember Jet Li the One?
Yeah.
So it's like that. But in order to activate the energy, you have to eat his heart. That's one form of cannibalism. Then you got the cannibalism where they go to war, they kill off the chief and his family, and then they roast him and eat him. Same principle. Because the ones who they conquered, they were showing reverence to him by deeming them worthy to consume and becoming one. So when you hear about the Smithsonian harvesting brains, right? They wasn't just harvesting any old brains, or they'd have had way more than 5,000, she said?
Yeah, crazy number.
They would have way more brains than that. So what was the selection process that went into which brain they would exhume and recover? Right? If the heart is for the warrior, what is the brain for? The intellect. Mm-hmm. Right? They trying to find
the pineal gland.
Right. The pineal gland is a whole nother animal.
They was extracting it out of the black man brain.
Yeah, it's like a jewel to them. They put them in the mojo bag, but that's a whole nother story. Yeah. But they taking these brains to the Smithsonian Institute, a museum, mm-hmm. Right? Some of us grew up that had parents from the South knowing about scrambled pig brains with eggs, mm-hmm. Right? A lot of us don't know about it.
Yeah, I know about it.
Right? But that was what we had to eat. Because we couldn't eat what they call choice parts. It's also beef brain. Mm-hmm. So the brain holds a significance for the power of the intellect. And the heart holds a certain frequency for a warrior. Did you ever hear the warriors always talk about how much heart somebody got in a fight?
Yeah.
It is commonly equated to courage.
Yeah.
The ability to stand in the face of opposition fearlessly.
Yeah.
Right? This is the energy they're trying to take in to help them conquer who they is. Right? And you also got to remember, they believe they take on the essence of the one they consume. This is why they still do communion in the church, continuing the simulated cannibalism of consuming a God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, but they don't know the purpose of it. They think they commemorating the Last Supper.
Yeah.
they're not commemorating the Last Supper. They commemorating cannibalism.
Reptilian.
Right. And the energy harvesting of consuming the God.
Eating his body and drinking his blood. And they ain't caught on to that yet. Man, you ain't caught on to that? That's that sound like, come on, man. That don't sound like no holy roll or stuff. Eating a man's body, drinking a man's blood. Even if it is symbolic. So they want to say, oh, yeah, well, it's symbolic. That makes it even worse. Because that means it's a spell. It's a spell.
Yeah. So that's how magic works. Right? So when the genuine article is not available, you're allowed to use a comparable substitute.
That's right.
Right? And based on the culture that you live in, they say that it's been banned. Cannibalism is outlawed, as they say, but they still having communion.
Right.
So in the facsimile, the duplicate, the replica, is the bread, which signifies the flesh, and the wine, which signifies the blood.
Yeah.
Notice the wine is wine when grape juice turns to alcohol. Right?
Yeah.
Which is also tapping into another frequency of spirits. Mm-hmm. Alcohol is called spirits.
Right. That's right.
Right. So when you use them as formula, if you study high magic or ceremonial magic, they tell you that if you can't find a general article, reasonable facsimile can be substituted.
That's right. That's a fact.
Right. So if I got a spell that requires beaver testicles, but I don't live around beavers, I can use a muskrat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the comparative analysis, the spiritual energy recognized the event as if the event was the same event as the first event that is built on.
Right.
So if they sacrifice the God to start the program, then you sacrificing every time you maintain the program. Yep. That's called conjure maintenance.
Yeah.
That's how you keep a spell going. You got to maintenance the conjure. And this is why we went back to war in the war 18